Welcome back to our series on Lightspeed Framework features. Today we will talk about the standard features that are built into our grid system. In today's world, every data-aware application uses lists or grids to display information. Most of the time, many users require different sets of data. It has always been a challenge to make a single grid architecture that is flexible enough to address every user's needs. Let's see how users are able to interact with our grid system architecture. Once you log into the application, you will land on the home page with a menu on the left side. You can collapse the menu or leave it expanded. Clicking on a menu option usually shows a grid with the requested data. The data is bound to a data source like Microsoft SQL database using SQL views. Our grid system dynamically reads the schema and metadata to display the details at runtime. It only fetches enough data to fill the details for a single page based on your page size, which makes it quite fast. Please note that if a user clicks on a menu multiple times, the application will open that many instances of the grid in tabs. Each tab instance is independent from the other. As much as the default view is sufficient to start, it's very common for users to view additional columns as well as remove unnecessary columns so that they have the right data which matches their needs. Using our framework grid architecture, you can right-click on the header of any column and all available columns are shown, where you can easily add or remove columns from the display. If you need to rearrange the columns, you can simply drag and drop them to the desired location. If the data does not fit in the column's current width, the width can easily be changed by dragging the appropriate column separator. If you are interested in grouping the data, you can select the desired columns and drop them in the groupable area. If you're looking to sort the data, you can simply click on any column and the system will toggle the sort order for that column. If you need to sort the data by multiple columns, you can press the Control key and then toggle more columns to achieve the desired sort order. If you need to filter or search the data, you can do so by either selecting the filtering on each column or by providing a global search, which will scan all visible columns to get you the desired results. As seen, all changes are reflected in real time. You can very quickly realize the potential of our grid system as there are endless possibilities. Once you have built your grid view details to match your required needs by slicing and dicing the data, I'm sure that you would like to save that personalized view for future reference. This is where our framework's grid view settings feature comes to the rescue. All you need to do is to click on the grid view settings and add a new grid view setting. There are two types of grid view settings, namely system grid view settings or the user grid view settings. As their name suggests, the system grid view settings are saved by the administrators, while all users are allowed to save their personal user grid view settings. There's no limit on the number of system grid view settings or the user grid view settings that are allowed in the application for a given grid. Once the grid view settings are saved, you can quickly toggle the grid view by selecting the appropriate grid view settings from the selection list. Let's build a custom view of customers by making some updates. Now that we have the view of data that is perfect, we can simply save it as a user grid view setting by giving it a name. If we would like this particular grid view setting to be our default, whenever we click on a menu, we can select Set as Default, and that setting will become our default for that grid. If we wish to save the column widths, we can select that option as well. As you can see, we now have a custom view of customers' data, which is quite different from the starting point. Please note that system grid view settings are available to all users. In addition, any user who does not have access to create the system grid view settings is also not allowed to update or delete them. This demonstrates that you can build your custom data views from the data source very easily and quickly. Oftentimes, many of the reporting requirements can easily be converted to grid view settings. Once you have the default grid view settings defined, when you click on the menu again, your default grid view settings will open up. You can always toggle between all available views for that grid. Now that you're comfortable with the data which is visible, you're very likely to export this set of data to Excel on as-needed basis. Our built-in export feature is quite smart, as it will take the current view of data, including the visible columns, as well as any defined groups, and export the details to Excel. You can even have multiple groups, and the Excel export will reflect them. There are built-in settings which will prevent the export in case the number of data rows are above the threshold. Once the number of rows reach below the threshold, the export feature will automatically be enabled. Our next feature is to make the user experience as intuitive as possible. Rather than having different icons per row based on the security or the status of the record, we simply provided a hyperlink so that when users are interested in digging into the details, they only need one type of interface. Depending on the security access, permissions, or the details of the record, the user will be navigated to either the edit form or the show form. In case the user does not have any permission to edit or show the details of a specific record, the hyperlink will simply not be visible. While we are talking about the user experience, there are two types of users. The first set of users are those who prefer to scroll the data, while the second set of users like to use pagination to view the data. In order to address the need for both users or both group of users, we have provided an option for the default page size for the parent grids and the default tab page size option for the child grids in your profile. Once you adjust those settings, they go into effect right away. This comes in handy when users are constantly moving between their office setup with multiple monitors and on the road where the real estate of the screen is not that much. Now that you have seen some of the standard features of our grid system, how would you feel if I tell you that all the grid setups are done using SQL views and metadata, which can be configured at runtime, including the ability to filter the data as needed at a global level? You don't need to write a single line of code in Visual Studio to build any of the grids in the entire application. Right away, it will cut down many hours of development effort in any project. We encourage you to watch other features of the Lightspeed framework, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact us.